Ahoy hoy digital world, welcome back once again to another Spliced In Later with your host, me, also known as Jordan. I'm excited to talk to you today, but I must offer my apologies up front that my voice may or may not be going. We'll have to see how we go as we record this one. It's funny, isn't it? I woke up this morning fine, but as we got closer and closer to the time when I was going to start recording, suddenly my throat started to feel a little my voice started to not be as strong as normal, and my testing 1, 2, 3, 4 that I normally do before an episode, it gave out on me. So we'll see how we go. I will do my very best, but you will forgive me if there are some gasps, some befuddlement, some confusion. In fact, I'm sure you'll forgive me, because that's most episodes anyway, even without the voice conundrum. I hope you're all doing well out there. I hope you are getting what you can in terms of movie and TV in this current climate. It is a great opportunity to be inside, to watch anything that you have fallen behind on, anything that has come out new. Maybe you've checked out Scoob and had a thought and opinion for yourself. I enjoyed the chance of downloading it and watching it. I may try it again this weekend with another film that I think might be getting released. I'm not sure. The information is a bit vague because it's not a very big blockbustery film, but it was something I had my eye on. So we'll see. If it's all successful, you may get another movie review next week. If not, plenty of other episodes I've got ideas for. Plenty of stuff we can go back to. So there'll be something. Don't you worry. But today's episode is something I've sort of wanted to do for quite a few weeks, and I wanted to use these particular films as an example. Because what we're going at here at Spliced In Later, what I hope is the main goal for people listening, is to hear about things that either they appreciate and agree with, whether it's the popular movies that they've seen over and over again, or personal favorites. And I hope in some other instances, I can mention movies that you have never heard of that you might want to give a try. I can mention TV shows that you've never heard of that you might want to give a try. Or even, I can convince you that maybe certain movies and TV shows that you wouldn't even consider touching might be worth a go. That's our goal here. To widen our horizons, as it were, to jump in the deep end in places where we might be afraid to jump. In my instance, it's horror movies. It's giving horror movies a chance because I'm not a fan of them, but allowing myself to listen to other people's recommendations, to allow my curiosity to appreciate the films that are generally considered to be good. I have found genuine horror films to be enjoyable, and ones that I will rewatch to get that same enjoyment again. Other examples I brought up on this episode as well from people I've talked to is people giving a chance to the older films, the black and white films, the films from the 50s and the 60s that might seem old, but genuinely have good production value and good stories and are very entertaining. Or films from other countries, getting past that fear of the subtitles to appreciate a film for the themes and story that it's telling without worrying about having to read for 2 hours or so. The most important thing is the need to overcome that reluctance for things which we have convinced ourselves that we don't like without even having a chance to see it and make the decision for ourselves. If you are not a fan of, say, sci-fi movies, you've seen a few sci-fi movies and you're not a fan, you can say, I don't like sci-fi movies. That's totally fine. But you shouldn't see a sci-fi movie that's coming out, a brand new sci-fi movie that no one's seen, and decide immediately that it's not good. You can say, I don't think I'd like it, but never say, I don't like it. You can't really say that unless you've seen it. I can't say, I don't like Scream, Saw, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because I haven't seen them. I can theorize that I probably won't like them. I'm scared to watch them, but I can't say Texas Chainsaw Massacre is bad because I haven't seen it. If you want to say something's bad, you've got to watch it first and decide for yourselves. And in some cases, you might actually enjoy the product that you watch, which it's then even more important to take that hat and put it in your hands and admit, yes, I did enjoy it. No one will think less of you for saying you wouldn't like something and then you do. It's just positivity. There's no downside to that. So the example I'm going to use here, and I've mentioned it a few times in the past, And I know there are specific listeners listening to me who I've talked to in the past who may think I'm targeting them specifically. And in a way, yes, but not in an angry way, not in a shaming way. This is just really pushing the ball for you to try something that you are not willing to do so, to get over that barrier. And then if you don't like it afterwards, fine, but at least you'll know for sure. And it's this example because I know a wide variety of people from different groups and genres. Not genres, people aren't genres. Friends and acquaintances, let's say that. People from work, people from my old school days, family members, close-knit friends, or friends I only see once every 2 years. In this example, out of all those people, out of everyone, there is only one person who I know out of everyone who likes and appreciates these movies as much as I do, that has given these movies a chance, or has not turned their nose up at the ideas or the thoughts of it. It's a conglomeration of all that stuff. And of course, you already know, because in this day and age, you have to click on the link to start the episode to know what I'm about to talk about. But in dramatic fashion, I'm going to announce it. We're going to talk about the Planet of the Apes movies, specifically the most recent 3 movies that came out. In 2011, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. In 2014, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And in 2017, War for the Planet of the Apes, which essentially makes up this Apes trilogy that we got recently. Now, the main reason I get from a lot of people who explain to me why they have not seen these movies and why they probably won't go see the movies, or why they tell me they don't like the movies, even though they haven't seen them, can be narrowed down to 2 specific reasons. And these are reasons that I understand. I'm not saying people are stupid or silly for using these reasons to not watch the new Apes movies. I understand them, and I'll lay them out briefly just so other people listening, maybe who are big advocates of the Apes movies, can understand as well why I'm not mad at anyone or angry. I'm just desperately trying to get over this initial wave of refusal or wariness of these new films. So Planet of the Apes has been around for so long now, quite a while. The original Planet of the Apes movie came out in the 1960s. And whether you've seen Planet of the Apes or not, it's common culture knowledge, essentially. Everybody knows Planet of the Apes. It's a planet. Apes have evolved into intelligent beings. They run their own society. Humans are subjugated as their slaves. Space astronauts crash land on the aforementioned title, Planet of Apes, and eventually just have to try and survive, because apes are not big fans of humans, want to subjugate them, enslave them. Completely the exact opposite of how humans treat inferior animals in today's society, really. This harks back to what I mentioned previously, that some people are wary of old films because A, they haven't aged well, they seem silly, or in a lot of unfortunate cases, a lot of the big twists and turns that would have made films so exciting and engaging to watch and experience for the first time in a movie theater, or even to watch the movies without any idea of where the movies are going. Most of that's spoiled due to common knowledge. If you don't know what the big thing about Planet of the Apes is, fantastic. Stop listening right now and go and watch Planet of the Apes, and you will be entertained, I assure you. I'm going to work extremely hard not to do the spoil of this twist and plots of the original Planet of the Apes and the sub-mentioned culture of Planet of the Apes movies from here on out, but it's very hard and I may slip up. So just a heads up and a warning to you. Alright, we'll move on. I get it, that old Planet of the Apes movie might seem a little silly by today's standards. Today we've got glorious CGI, even makeup that's leaps and bounds ahead of what was in the original Planet of the Apes movie. However, I have to say, the original Planet of the Apes movie is a gem. It is a pinnacle of cinema. It shows how people were able to use their imaginations to tell stories that are well ahead of what we could imagine in the past. You may not like it because it's silly, but at the same time, I know people that are huge fans of fantasy and wizards, mutant-powered creatures, goblins, pixies, other worlds, but say, no, I turn my eye at sci-fi, that's silly, I don't believe that. It's just the same thing. Sci-fi is fantasy, is just in space, really. I know you could argue all day about how sci-fi has a hint of possibility to it, but really, it's just adventure stories, just not on Earth, or using qualities from things that come from outside of Earth. It's all the same, really. And sure, the makeup, the outfits of the monkeys might seem a little silly, but they're charming in a way. You may laugh. However, I understand it's not for everybody, especially if you know the twist. If you don't want to watch it, I get it. I'll understand. We're not advocating that particular Planet of the Apes movie here. If we jump forward to 2001, the other reason why people may not be interested in the new Planet of the Apes movies is because they saw the Planet of the Apes movie in 2001, directed by Tim Burton, which is not good at all. It's a mess of a film. It's confusing. It's poorly created. Attempts to take the twist and make it its own twist, which just leaves you confused, lost, and slightly befuddled. Just not a good film overall. And that would be fresh in a lot of people's minds because Rise of the Planet of the Apes only came out about 10 years after that one. It's always good to leave a big break between rebooting something because unless you're a big fan of that particular product, it's going to be hard to get viewers back into the cinemas to watch it. I love Spider-Man with all my heart and being. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, that whole thing, great. I know a lot of people who, by the time Tom Holland came around and showed off just how great he was as Spider-Man, people still refuse to give him a chance because they've already had Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in their lifetime. I mean, the break between Spider-Man 3 and The Amazing Spider-Man is only 5 years. Not a huge break. That said, I advocate here very quickly for the Spider-Man films. They're all great. You should watch them all. But I get it. I understand the point. So a lack of excitement for the original Planet of the Apes plus horror at the 2001 Apes may be contributing factors to why people did not give the new Apes trilogy a try. But it also boils down to just one thing, that stoic steadfastness need to not try something new, to make a decision before watching the movie. It's a silly concept, even if you've not seen any of the other movies. Talking apes, run a planet, chase humans around on horses, talk legibly. I get it. It sounds wild. And it is wild in an absolute good way. But what makes these three Apes trilogy movies so good has absolutely nothing to do with talking apes, the civilization, the Planet of the Apes. None of that really is relevant to why these movies are good. Why are they good? Because the Planet of the Apes themselves are a backdrop to some real heavy themes, stories of family, of identity, coming together as a family, as a group, overcoming odds, prejudice, that's not a word, prejudice, racism, all of that are in these movies. And they're not straightforward. They show that everyone has the potential for good and evil, whether they're human, whether they're ape. You would think in something like this, either the apes are painted as the bad guys or the humans are painted as the bad guy. Absolutely not. There's so much more to it. Why are these movies so good? Revolves around one specific thing, and that is Andy Serkis providing motion capture of Caesar. I want to touch on Rise of the Planet of the Apes very quickly, which is the beginning of this trilogy. Andy Serkis plays Caesar, who is a young chimpanzee. I think it's a chimpanzee. I'm going to get a lot of the ape species wrong, so I'm just going to say apes for now to avoid offending any ape aficionados out there. Baby adopted by James Franco, gets a little bit of a cheeky experiment on, starts to develop beyond, evolve essentially, into more human-like qualities inside the ape. But in the day and age that he's living in, when people discover about it, they either want to use him for profit or they want to lock him up in a normal zoo because apes aren't supposed to ingratiate themselves in the real world. But as all this terrible stuff is happening, Caesar is growing, he's evolving, he's learning, he forms a bond with James Franco and his family. He sees other apes being mistreated at the zoo by Tom Felton or in a laboratory being experimented on so that they can find cures for diseases to help humans, not apes. And eventually, as his brain evolves and expands, he decides to do something about it. And he doesn't decide he's going to take over the world and wipe out human civilization. He just wants to liberate himself and his fellow apes from captivity. It is a testament to Andy Serkis and his ability to provide a performance through motion capture that makes Caesar a believable character, that you forget that it is not a real ape that you are watching, that it is CGI created. You believe it's a real ape character that is happening to an extent. Of course, you're watching a movie, you're not going to go, oh, that's a real ape, but this is a documentary. No, but it is a powerful enough performance that you can believe every bit that he is evolving and understanding and learning. It is Andy Serkis' Caesar that is a powerhouse performance in this first movie and what he carries through Dawn and War. He's our main protagonist of these movies. And all you want for him is to be happy and peaceful with his family, with his friends, and he just can't get it. Now, Rise was a good movie. I saw it warily. I'm the exact problem I'm trying to address here. A couple of people thought, let's go see the new Rise of the Planet of the Apes movie. And I was like, whatever, okay, I guess it's apes and stuff. And then by the end of it, I was like, that was cool. That was good. There was a lot more to it than I thought it was. So 3 years later, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes comes out. I asked those same friends if they wanted to go see it. They didn't really care. I asked a lot of people if they wanted to see it. They didn't really care. Got one friend to go. And we saw Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which is without a doubt one of my most favorite films of all time. What makes Dawn of the Planet of the Apes so good is we jump forward a few 60, 70 years. The apes have gone into the jungle. They're not taking over the planet. They're just trying to live their own life. They've got their own settlement. They just want to be peaceful. Meanwhile, humans are dealing with a virus that has evolved and wiped out most of the population. Humans are desperately trying to survive, get back to their old way of life. These two groups eventually come into contact. Not initially in an aggressive way, they just come across each other's paths. Caesar doesn't want to fight them. He just wants them to go about their way and leave them alone. And the humans, on their most part, are scared of them. Maybe they want to kill them, maybe they don't. But they need resources that the apes are currently camped out on. And then it's sort of like a Cold War scenario of the movie. Everybody's trying to work towards a truce so that everybody can get what they want without violence. But there are factions on either side that are determined to provoke a war. And when I say on either side, that's what makes this movie so good. Whereas in the first movie, Rise, you started to see apes stand up against their oppressors, but the apes were firmly seen as the stood upon, the inferior, the ones you wanted to succeed. There is a character in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes called Koba, played by Toby Kebbell, who is an ape. And he, due to years of being experimented on and traumatized beyond belief, has an aggressive hatred towards humans. And although he is one of Caesar's staunchest followers, he'll stop at nothing to provoke a fight against the humans, because he just needs it to satisfy his need for revenge. And again, Toby Kebbell in a motion action performance as Koba is just incredible. Koba is one of my favorite characters from any movie, and that's so impressive. That's saying something, that it's a computer-generated monkey character of sorts. Dawn culminates in a very exciting final few minutes. I will say what's a bit frustrating about the trailers for these movies, and again, I've discussed my issue with trailers in a previous episode, is they focus squarely on the action, the apes riding horses and firing guns, explosions, screaming, yelling, fire. That takes up maybe about 10% of this movie. It's very minuscule. Yes, it contributes to the climax, but it's a climax built on tension and excitement and concern that's been building up watching this movie. But of course, when you finish Dawn, there's still a little bit more to tell. Maybe the story isn't quite done. That's correct, because then we move on to War for the Planet of the Apes, final movie in the trilogy. I object to the title War for the Planet of the Apes. Again, there's very little fighting in this movie. A more accurate title for this movie, I believe, should be Prison Break of the Planet of the Apes, essentially. We come to a point in the third movie where Caesar has found a way to live peacefully with his ape family and friends. He has skirmishes with humans, but not to wipe them out, just to protect themselves. And he's just looking for the ultimate goal, to settle down somewhere peacefully. He counts some really aggressive humans in order to spare his family. He goes to confront them and ends up in a sort of Cold War prison situation. against a very demented but tragic human character known as the Colonel, played by Woody Harrelson. While war isn't necessarily about a war, it is really good at exploring the themes of loss that come from any war, specifically between Caesar and the Colonel. Caesar has lost a lot in a war that he did not start, and he's just trying to survive and just keep his family safe. In retrospect, the Colonel, who has never met Caesar before, has never really met any of the apes before, has lost tons, has lost nearly everything, with the virus wiping out humans, with war declared between the apes and the humans. So he's determined to finish a fight that he did not start and did not really even involve him in the beginning, which is truly great stuff. And along the way, between all these three movies, we get a bunch of other ape characters provided by motion capture as well, who all evolve alongside Caesar, and they become very good characters in their own life. You've got Maurice, the orangutan, who is a wise sage figure to Caesar. You've got Rocket, who's like his right-hand man. When I say man, I mean ape, who always follows him into battle. You get some humans as well that are of the good side, apart from James Franco in the first. You've got Jason Clarke in the second, who is also like Caesar. He understands that war is not necessary and he wants to avoid it if he can. But then externally, you've got Gary Oldman, who is just so scared of these apes. He is not open to the idea at all that they can coexist peacefully. And a fun little character in the third and final movie is Bad Ape, played by Steve Zahn, who provides some much needed comedy to some very dark and serious movies with some serious themes and motives going on. He makes you laugh with some silly slapstick comedy, but there's also a sense of tragedy to him as well. Overall, as I mentioned way at the start of this episode, the purpose of this episode is to open up people's limitations, or the way people limit themselves when it comes to movies and TV and things that they like or dislike. While I sit here on my little podcast and I talk on and on about movies and TV shows and how it's great and we should watch them all and I love them all, for quite a long time, though I had seen a lot of movies and I owned a lot of movies, I was very limited. My aspect was not open to mere possibilities. I watched Star Wars movies, superhero movies, I watched some comedies, I watched some action, some drama, but they were all very focused, laser pointed on themes that I'd already established I enjoyed. I'll watch a comedy movie because Eddie Murphy is the star. And I won't watch a comedy movie because Melissa McCarthy is the star. Well, here we are now later, and when I allow myself to go, hang on, I can't say I don't like Melissa McCarthy movies if I haven't seen one. And people are telling me that this movie Spy, I would like. I can't keep telling them I don't like Spy if I haven't seen it, so I'll watch Spy. Lo and behold, love Spy. Thought it was a very fun and entertaining movie, and I liked Melissa McCarthy in it. Horror movies, I'm scared of being scared, but I can't tell people I don't like horror movies unless I give it a go. I'm just sad that it took me so long, and with the help of friends to give me posters to tell me about movies to watch, to provide me with recommendations, in some cases to force me to watch these movies. It's a lot of wasted time and years that I could have spent really diving into this topic, really getting in with all these movies, and widening my horizons more. Sure, I'm not old. I'm still in my 20s. I got plenty of time. But every moment counts. There's so much content out there. And now that I'm open to all these sorts of things, I'm really excited to see what's out there. And I hope that other people can do that as well. Nothing disheartens me more than saying, this is a good movie, you should check it out, than getting a response that has a scrumpled up shake of the head and just, no, I wouldn't like that, or I don't like that. And you respond with the question, have you seen it? No, it's just not for me. Maybe it is. Maybe give it a go. These Apes movies are so good, but when I try to tell people about them, I just get the general movie about talking monkeys. It's not really for me. I don't mind. There's so much more to them than that. I've given you a bit of a garbled idea of them, but it's been a bit all over the place because I'm desperately trying to get my thoughts and views out while I still have my voice. But I hope that someone out there maybe will just give them a go, maybe just the first one, to just see what I'm talking about. And it doesn't have to be the Apes movies. Maybe there are other movies out there that's been recommended to you, that you've seen a trailer for, that you think, isn't for me. Give one a go and see what happens. And if you don't like it, what have you lost? Not really. You can stand by the belief that you had earlier. Well, that's that for today's episode. Bit of a garbled mess about Apes movies and how they're great, and please watch the stuff I ask you to watch. But I hope that people are having a think about it, possibly going, yeah, maybe widen my opinions and beliefs just a bit, tread into unfamiliar territory, dive into the deep end of a pool, and see what happens. You may find some gems that you never knew existed, and you'll find maybe something brand new that you can think is your absolute favorite. I will see you all again next week, and when I say I'll see you, I won't actually see you, but I will hope that you will hear me. I will talk into the air and hope that people on the other side are listening, with whether it's a movie review, whether we get back to another content I was going to talk about, James Bond, top 10s. It could be anything. Specifically, it could be two things. But which one of those two things will it be? You'll just have to tune in again and find out. But until then, as always, I love and appreciate you. You've been spliced in later. Adios, muchachos. I'll catch you next time.